How's it going, guys? So we got a new week. The concrete crew is back today. My dad's working at getting the next section dug out. Looks like another truck's just pulling in now. One of the next things we need to get done is moving all the stuff out of our shop, getting ready to set this up as a feed room. So we got a bunch of boxes. We're gonna start packing this up, moving it over to the new shop area, getting rid of stuff we don't need anymore, like all these John Deere ends that are for the old John Deeres. And kind of get a chance to reorganize everything now that we're moving it. We ran into a sort of a major issue with my original plan. We've come up with what we think is the best solution. It's going to make a little extra work. I'll explain later more of the details of why we're doing this, but the robot's going to end up driving along this building and in the side because of the elevation change. It's too steep to do what we were going to do out here. So we have to get this up a little bit with some fill. We're gonna run this lane along this building. There's just a steep bank. Just layering in some fill in here. We're gonna roll it good. We're gonna bring the 7-foot lane in off the lane over there. And then we wanna keep it out off the wall a good bit so that it can make a turn and get straight and head in this way. Then we're gonna cut this curb out and it's gonna run right into the building. Got enough space between the 8-foot on-center posts. That was the best thing we could come up with. I think it'll work. Originally the plan was just to have a little concrete path right there. It's gonna be nice and simple, 17 feet long. But now we gotta make this 40-foot long lane with a turn on it. Just gotta get that up a foot or so right in there. And then put some stone on top, pack it good. Hey guys, so it's the next day here. We worked at this new lane a little bit more this morning. Got fill added and rolled in. Didn't want this settling at all underneath the concrete, so had to roll it in layers. I think it looks good for now. We'll probably add some more fill later and some topsoil so we can mow along this bank again. They just poured out the rest of the way to the freestall. They're finishing that concrete right now, and then they're gonna start forming this up. And tomorrow they'll pour this and it'll be done. It's about 100 degrees and humid out here. Got the curb out of the way, and they're just gonna make it flush with the floor here. Got room to turn and then head downhill at 5%. Can walk on the stuff they poured this morning now. Came to the end of the bunker and then started uphill a little bit, and then it flattens out. Kind of stays even with the driveway. Meets up with the east side of the barn. We'll use this door to go in and feed the main dairy barn. Should be traversable for the robot, I think. Glad I don't have to assemble all these. Got that first one in place. He's gonna fasten it. Just 2 more identical to that, and then 2 more small ones. They're about ready to pour the last section this morning. Got everything straightened out. Made some extra work. They had to put a couple steps in up to our door there, and cutting through the curtains in the wall there, so they had to make some new curtain boxes. Also had to bury some PVC pipe for the downspouts. Take this over to our new shop. He already brought a second bin. I was showing you this a while back. This is going to be our new shop, at least for a while. I was saying we were going to concrete the floor in here. We decided not to after all. It's not really in the budget for right now, so maybe in the future we can concrete an area, but we'll get some stone in, make it a little nicer. So for now, we're actually going to put the boxes off to the side so we can work on the floor a little bit more. We're setting up bin number 3. Got a little shower come through here. It's good. Got a honeybee hive in here. Usually they're inside the wall cavity, but they're all concrete guys are done and they're gonna get cleaned up and leave, and now it's pouring. We got a nice 1/2 inch of rain this afternoon that we weren't really expecting. The concrete guys just wrapped up. They covered that because it's still kind of fresh. They didn't want to get water on it. We got to see how this drained across this area. This was a little bit of a challenge to figure out what to do with water. The problem is the bunks, they catch so much water and it all floods down through. When it's raining heavy, it was really kind of deep through this area. We might want to put a diversion or something there. Eventually we'd like a roof over those bunks, and that would kind of fix the problem, but that's not going to be right away. So overall, things are draining well. We don't have any puddles on top of the lane. That was the main thing. My dad's putting some fill around the pathways because we should be able to drive over this now with our mixer for feeding. This was poured a week ago now. It's just nice to be able to back the mixer right through to feed the dry cows. Makes that job a lot easier. We need to move this lid out of the way. They put a hook on it so you can grab this, but they said not to use it right away because concrete's got to cure a little bit more, so we'll have to use the forks underneath. It feels really good to have all the outside work done as far as the robot goes. That thing can be set up to run now. We got it working. We didn't pour concrete anywhere we shouldn't have, I don't think. Tried our best, so I'm hoping those things can drive through everywhere we want them to. Rather than trying to get underneath it, I think we'll just slide it over. Just working it, packing more stuff up. My dad made a lot of progress yesterday. Got a stack here of a bunch of operators' manuals from some equipment we had in the past. We had a open station 2640 tractor when I was a kid that my uncle used to plant and spray. Didn't get those sent along when we sold them. Guess I don't need them anymore. Look at this. We still have this rake. I wonder what year they bought this thing. That actually is applicable for today. Our bunks are 110 foot wide, so it looks like they have a couple designs that could fit the width. Interested in getting a roof over those bunks at some point. We got to get them out done in the shop. We really just need to get the skid loader in here, move the workbench, dismantle all the shelves. So I'll show you guys the finished product with these concrete lanes. This morning they dropped off the last of our bins. Got to get a nice thumbnail picture here. We decided to go with these poly bins versus the traditional metal bins. We got them from Agridor here in Pennsylvania. There's a few advantages to these poly bins. For one thing, you can see through them. So when we get the grain in there, we'll be able to see the level, know when we need to reorder grain. With the robot system, we will have a way of tracking how much grain is in the bins, but you always have to make sure you're entering in when they're filled and how much is put in them. And this way we'll just see, it's just nice. You can just glance at them, see if we need more grain ordered. The other thing they're telling me is these poly bins, they don't sweat quite as much, so the feed keeps a little bit better in them. I don't know how big of a difference it is, but they say it just doesn't bridge up as much and flows a little bit better. They won't rust like a metal bin would over time. So that's kind of the benefits to these. So we have the 3 large bins in the back. Each of those hold 14 tons of grain, and then the 2 in the front hold 3.8 tons. So the 3 big bins will be toasted rolled corn, toasted rolled soybeans, and the lactating cow supplement mix. And then the 2 small bins will have just soybean meal in one, and then a pre-fresh cow pre-mix in the other one. We get our grain delivered from right across the street, at least the corn and soybeans. We normally would get 20 tons at a time, and now we can only hold 14 tons, but we just pay for delivery by the ton. Delivery, obviously it's not super costly with how close we are. 14 tons is enough capacity. We can order 10 or 12 tons at a time. There's going to be augers put on the bottom of these. They're going to be flex augers, so they don't have to be a straight line above the robot. We can take them in through the wall and bend them up somehow up above the ceiling of the feed room. The plan is to keep the motors up and out of the way above the loading station, and then we're just going to have pipes dropping down. The grain will drop down into the feed mixer then. Gonna have some help installing those at some point, but first we need to actually figure out where exactly the mixer is gonna park. So that's kind of the next thing we're waiting on, is the feed mixers to show up, and they're gonna get those installed, figure out the exact loading station. That's why we're focusing on getting the shop cleaned out now. And then we gotta get conveyors set up with those augers, so it's a lot of stuff to fit in there. From what it looks like, if we ever want to add another bin or 2, we have enough space for some small bins on the corners there, the same size as those small ones. So then this concrete lane heading up to the barn didn't quite go as planned, but we got a good solution, I think. Originally, when we were deciding if we wanted to put a robot feeder in, we checked the grade to make sure it wouldn't be too steep from the floor in there down to our shop, and it was under 5%. The original plan was just to have a straight path up through there. And I was thinking we would just use the aprons on this barn. We already have concrete. Drive it along this apron. We'd have to pour a little concrete in between, and then we could use the apron on the end of the freestall out there. We would just have that 50-foot span there to make a 7-foot lane, and then we could use the rest of the concrete out through. I didn't really like the idea of running the robots right behind those gates. We're always in and out of there, scrape that floor every morning, bedding that pen, different things were going in and out. And we would have to worry about backing into the robot anytime we're backing the skid loader out. You know, it just has happened one time, and then we have a problem that could be pretty expensive. I felt a lot better about having this lane out from the building a little bit. We know we can work in there, drive around safely. We will have to cross over it out this way, but we'll be driving forward with the skid loader. I just like that quite a bit more. And we also just liked how it wasn't so steep coming out this direction. Just fits in with the driveway better. But we never actually checked how steep this grade was from this point up to the apron right there. And the thing was, even this apron doesn't look super steep, but this is actually 6.5%, which the robot, the max grade it can drive up or down is 5%, and then sideways they don't want anything more than 2.5%, and they like to keep it even less than that, just so you don't have to worry about sliding around at all. This apron wasn't even usable in any way. We couldn't have driven it out across there. We couldn't have it drive up through here. I guess it just to the eye doesn't look that steep, but it's steeper than you realize. I didn't have my camera out and capture that conversation. We were just trying to think of any idea we could to try and reduce the grade. Like we could angle it up the hill or make some sort of switchback or something. I had the idea of cutting a 7-foot width out of this concrete so the robot could drive up through into the barn and then run feed out, but it was just too narrow to make that work. And then we thought of, well, what if we run it out beside the building, go the right grade, drive as far as we need to get up to the right height, and then turn in through the wall. Everybody kind of agreed that made the most sense. It really wasn't a big deal to cut a hole in the wall. We just had to get rid of that curb, and we did have to cut the curtain, just the bottom curtain there. The top curtain goes all the way through. The robot can drive under that, but they built us a couple curtain boxes just for the ends of these curtains. Open up. Had to put a new controller on this one. We had one of those sitting around, so they installed that there. And then we had this doorway. It's going to be a big drop off down to this, so they put a step right here. So I think they worked that out pretty good. So they wanted the lanes to be 7 feet wide. The footprint of the robot is just 3 foot. It won't be driving real close to the edge. The robots will be showing up in just a couple weeks. You guys will get to see them. The whole idea is they're not a massive machine. They're taking smaller batches of feed out more often. They'll be driving back and forth every hour to push feed up and check the feed levels. One concern we have is with snow and ice on these tracks in the winter. With our climate here in southern Pennsylvania, we do definitely get snowstorms. Some winters are worse than others. The last couple winters, we've had hardly any snow even at all. Just depends on the year. Probably this winter we'll get tons of snow. But these robots, they can handle a little bit of snow. They can push it. Ice isn't great for them, so the wheels, if they would drive on a little bit of snow, even if it's pushing most of it off, it would kind of create an ice layer under the wheels. We're gonna have to make sure we're putting some salt out and some grippy sand or something, but I'm gonna have to learn how to manage that. There's a couple guys that have these in our county that run outside, and they said it's not that big a deal. I was considering running the water heating tube through these lanes, like right where the wheels actually drive, so just putting basically up and back one round. It wouldn't have cost that much to actually get the tubing. To get it installed would have cost more. It would have complicated the pour quite a bit because they wanted to pour different sections, and yeah, they could have made it happen. It just, I was worried we would damage the hose, or I don't know exactly where the wheels are going to even drive, so it would have taken a lot more thought and planning. There's a question of if it's going to actually stay warm enough the whole way around and melt the ice, just one round of tube. We decided just not to do it. We're going to have to deal with the snow and ice a little bit. From what I was hearing, the worst thing is the drifting. If you get a lot of snow blowing around. If we would know there's a big snowstorm coming, we could set the bunk heights a little higher. That way the feeders would run more often, run more feed out. And then we could actually turn them off overnight, just let it snow, come out here, clean the pathways, and then start them back up. Obviously, I wouldn't be comfortable doing this if we were up in New York or something, somewhere you're getting a lot of snow every week. It's gonna be probably a pain for people. Okay guys, thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.